I never expected a simple visit to my favorite bookstore would lead to something that would change everything. That day, I just wanted some peace, a quiet corner to lose myself in a novel. As I reached for a book on the top shelf, someone else's hand brushed mine. I looked up and froze. It was him, Mr. Raymond, my high school English teacher. He looked different, still sharp in his features, but more relaxed. The crisp suit was replaced with a casual shirt and jeans. His hair had a bit more gray, but he carried it well. At first, I thought maybe he wouldn't remember me. After all, I was just one student among hundreds. But he did. He smiled and said my name like he had just seen me yesterday. We talked. What started as awkward small talk quickly turned into something comforting. We laughed about old school memories, the terrible cafeteria food, the time he caught someone cheating with lyrics written on their arm. I forgot how easily he could make people feel at ease. He mentioned that he had left teaching a year ago to pursue writing. That explained the bookstore visit. The conversation flowed so naturally, I didn't notice how long we'd been standing there. Something about the way he listened, really listened, made me feel noticed in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. He asked about my life now, what I was studying, what I wanted to do. And I asked about his writing, his life after teaching. He hesitated slightly before saying, "It's been an adjustment, but I'm figuring it out." As we left the bookstore, we walked in the same direction for a bit, continuing to talk. When we finally had to part ways, he said, "It was good seeing you." "Really?" I nodded, pretending it was casual. But my heart was doing flips. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about him. Not as a teacher, but as someone else entirely. There was something about his voice, the way he looked at me, soft but focused. I tried to push it out of my mind. It wasn't anything, just nostalgia, right? But the thought stayed. He stayed. His voice replayed in my head. That smile. The way he said my name. I found myself walking back to that bookstore a few days later, not even sure why. Maybe hoping I'd see him again. Maybe just trying to recapture that feeling. And as luck would have it, he was there, sitting in the cafe corner, typing on his laptop. Our eyes met. He smiled again, same warm, knowing smile. And just like that, we picked up where we left off. Something about him made it hard to turn away. Maybe it was the timing. Maybe it was loneliness. Or maybe, deep down, I was already beginning to fall, and I didn't even realize it. We started seeing each other more often. At first, it felt harmless. Casual conversations over coffee, brief chats about books and life. But there was something unspoken between us, a growing electricity we both pretended not to notice. I told myself it was just admiration, nothing more. But every time he looked at me, really looked, it felt like he saw something no one else did. One evening, he opened up more than usual. He spoke about how teaching drained him, how he lost himself in the process of shaping other people's futures while neglecting his own. He mentioned a marriage that didn't work out and a sense of regret he carried. I listened, drawn in by his honesty. It didn't feel like a teacher talking to a former student anymore. It felt like two people, both searching for something. Maybe comfort. Maybe connection. After that, our conversations changed. They became longer, deeper. We texted late into the night, shared playlists, sent voice notes about our days. I started waiting for his messages. I'd smile when his name lit up my screen. I didn't admit it, but I was already emotionally invested. One night, we were walking along a quiet path, just talking. He reached for my hand when I tripped slightly. He didn't let go right away. The touch lingered. I looked at him, and he looked at me, and in that moment, it was clear we both felt it. That pull. That tension. I should have stepped back, but I didn't. Neither did he. When we finally kissed, it wasn't rushed or aggressive. It was soft, hesitant, as if we were both questioning whether we should. But neither of us stopped. His hand brushed against my face, and my heart pounded. It was the kind of kiss that comes from a place of emotional buildup, gentle, slow, and terrifying in its intensity. Afterward, we didn't talk much. We both knew we'd crossed a line. He said, "This can't be a thing." I nodded, but the silence between us was heavy with everything unspoken. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about what this meant, about what I was doing. But my emotions overpowered my logic. I didn't want to walk away. In the following days, we continued as if nothing had changed. But everything had. The way he looked at me now, the softness in his tone, the hidden smiles, it all told me this wasn't over. I was getting pulled in deeper, caught between guilt and desire. I knew how it looked. I knew how it sounded. But it didn't feel wrong in those moments. It felt like something real in a world full of pretending. Still, a quiet voice in the back of my mind kept whispering, "This isn't how love is supposed to start." We kept our relationship hidden. No public displays, no photos, no mentions to friends. It felt like a secret too fragile to expose. He said it was for the best, said people wouldn't understand, and I believed him. I told myself what we had was rare, something worth protecting. But slowly, cracks began to show. He started pulling away, not all at once, but in pieces. Some days, he'd be warm and affectionate. Other days, distant and vague. Messages went unanswered. Calls were missed. I made excuses for him. Maybe he was busy, overwhelmed, or just needed space. But the feeling in my gut told me something else was going on. He'd changed. Not in big ways, but in small, consistent ones. One Saturday, I decided to surprise him. I told myself it was romantic, spontaneous. I had never been to his apartment before. He always came to me or suggested neutral places. That should have been a red flag. But love makes you ignore what's obvious. When I knocked, a woman answered the door. She was kind, polite, and clearly at home there. Confused, I asked for him. Her smile faltered slightly. "He's in the shower," she said. My stomach dropped. I stepped back, thanked her, and left before he could see me. I didn't wait for explanations. I didn't need any. Everything made sense in that moment. The distance, the secrecy, the hesitation. I had never been the only one. Later that evening, he called. I didn't answer. He texted, "I can explain." I agreed to meet, needing closure, needing the truth. His face said it all. Regret, guilt, shame. He admitted it wasn't just me. That woman was his partner. They weren't married, but they lived together. He said they were on a break, that he didn't expect to feel what he did with me. But none of it mattered. He'd chosen to lie, to manipulate my trust. I was silent for most of it. Not because I didn't have things to say, but because I was processing how stupid I'd been. I thought I was special. I thought we had something real. But I was a convenience, a fantasy he entertained while keeping his real life intact. I wasn't in love. I was fooled. He asked me not to hate him. I told him I didn't. I pitied him. Because someone who can fake love so easily will never experience the real thing. I walked away, this time for good. There were no dramatic goodbyes, no tears in front of him. Just silence. And behind that silence, a storm of emotions I'd have to sort through alone. I wasn't just heartbroken. I felt betrayed, played, used. The man I thought saw me was never really looking. He was just reflecting back what I wanted to see. The days that followed felt like walking through fog. Everything around me moved, but I remained still. I went through routines, smiled when expected, answered when spoken to. But inside, I was disconnected. I kept replaying every moment we shared, analyzing every word, wondering how I could have missed the truth hiding in plain sight. For a while, I blamed myself. I thought maybe I misread the signs, maybe I pushed too hard, felt too fast. But slowly, I realized the weight wasn't mine to carry. He had a choice at every step. He chose to hide the truth, to lead me on, to act like what we had was real while knowing it couldn't last. That wasn't my fault. Healing didn't come in some grand moment. It came quietly, in little acts of reclaiming my peace. I stopped checking my phone hoping to hear from him. I unfollowed him on every platform. I stopped walking past the bookstore, stopped waiting for that accidental encounter to happen again. I had to teach myself to let go of a future that never really existed. But even in that pain, I found something valuable. I began to see how strong I was for walking away, how easy it would have been to stay in denial, to keep answering his messages, to keep hoping he'd leave the other woman. But I didn't. I chose my self-worth over his empty promises. That mattered. Friends eventually found out. I kept it simple when I explained, just said it didn't work out. The details were mine alone. Some asked if I still thought about him. I did. Not with longing, but with clarity. He had a place in my story, but not in my life anymore. What once felt like magic now felt like a lesson. One night, I sat alone and opened a blank journal. I started writing everything I had felt, every bit of confusion, every moment of heartbreak, every lesson. The more I wrote, the more I realized that pain can turn into something powerful when you understand it. I wasn't writing about him anymore. I was writing about me, who I was before, and who I was becoming. Love doesn't always show up the way we expect. Sometimes, it disguises itself, draws you in, then disappears, leaving you to find your way back. But that journey back is where real strength lives. I stopped looking for closure from him and found it within myself. Eventually, I smiled again, genuinely. I started to believe in love again, not the fantasy kind, but the kind built on truth, respect, and consistency. I now know what I won't accept, what I truly need, and that no connection, no matter how intense, is worth losing myself over. He became a chapter, not the whole book. And though it hurt, I'm thankful, because that betrayal forced me to rediscover my worth. It reminded me that love without honesty isn't love at all. It's just a story we tell ourselves until we're strong enough to write a better one.